Persona Workshop Training. We are broadcasting and recording this web conference through Skype meeting broadcast, and the audio can be heard through your PC speakers only. If you do not consent to being part of a recorded session, we ask that you please disconnect your browser at this time. The web conference recording will be available at skypeoperationframework.com WAC Academy within 24 hours. If you have any questions today for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located either on the right side of your screen or below the video player. We've posted a few items there already and will continue to monitor throughout the session. Now, let's move on to the show. Presenting with us today from Microsoft, we have Connie Welsh, who is a Senior Program Manager for Skype. Connie, you now have the floor.
Awesome. Thanks, Debbie. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are located. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to present the material we have created to help guide you around defining the different personas and mapping their communication needs to align with the cloud migration strategy. In the 10+ years I've spent deploying voice solutions, this has always been a significant challenge. Our goal and outcome of this training is that this will help simplify this process for you. So again, my name is Connie Welsh, and I am an architect on the Skype customer experience team. Our team is part of the Skype for Business product group, and our team has the following goals: to enhance the customer and partner experience by capturing feedback to influence product direction, while enabling organizations of any size to get to our cloud service by providing the best-in-class readiness and deployment services. This session is part of the wider Skype Operations Framework training. We encourage you to review the Skype Operations Framework overview recorded training. And again, let's recap on why the Skype Operations Framework was created and what it is. We know that the shift to the cloud changes the way Skype for Business is delivered, moving from on-premises deployments to online deliveries. We have been asked to provide practical guidance to assist with planning, delivering, and operating Skype for Business online. We created the multifaceted approach of the Skype operational framework to provide that practical guidance and associated tools and assets, along with a common language of phases and stages to drive a common understanding of the Skype for Business online lifecycle. To help folks get on board, we have the Skype Academy, like what you're listening today, to host sessions and also provide technical product training. And also, we want to make sure that there are some feedback mechanisms for you. As we said earlier, SOF is a living framework, and we continue to work on updating assets and delivering new offers. One key area that drives our update is feedback from you. Please visit the feedback site above or use the feedback link on the main site to access our feedback channels, where we would love you to share your thoughts and ideas on what you would like to see in future releases. The feedback channels are voting enabled, so if you like an idea already shared, then please vote on it and show your support. We are proud to launch the new SOF community as part of developing this multifaceted approach to SOF. The Skype Operations Framework team is looking forward to hearing from you and on how you are applying this guidance to your project and sharing lessons learned. So please sign up and take part. Because the Skype Operations Framework is a living and breathing framework for Skype for Business online, we will be adding new content and working on updating delivered assets. We will be updating the training material to cover major updates, but we encourage you to always be working with the latest assets, which may have been released since this overview session was recorded. So let's dive into the Persona Workshop training and the recommended delivery of this to your customer. So you are here. This is part of the plan phase. Also, the assess stage. So why is this important? Well, one of the things that we have seen with users being migrated from on-premise to online is that sometimes they did not have features available to them that they needed in the online service, which resulted in a poor experience. And as a subsequent result, we have seen some users migrated back to their on-premise environment. We do not want to do this at any cost. So what this activity is going to do for us today is determine why it's key to identify those personas, and how is this training going to be a benefit to your customers. This training will help you to understand the personas within a given industry, their role within that organization, and what communication requirements and tools are needed to support that persona as a migration to online is considered. You will be guided on how to document this as well for future iterations as new features become available. Additionally, as part of this exercise, we will be able to identify potential blockers that we can either mitigate or plan appropriately for with respect to the corporate communication strategy. So again, just to kind of outline what the purpose of the workshop is and what you would want to share with the folks that you're presenting for. The scope of this is currently for users that are homed to an on-prem Link or Skype for Business server. You will want to make sure that you understand who is a good candidate to migrate it online. So you will, as part of this workshop, help your customer identify those top usage profiles to migrate. As an outcome, you'll be able to understand and help your customer understand the communication strategy needed to support their business value chain. In other words, what it is that they do, and make sure that the communication tools and capabilities are available for that user. So what are the prerequisites before you begin this activity with your customer? You will want to read the persona activity worksheet description that is in the folder associated with this activity. Additionally, based upon what you completed in the discovery questionnaire during the envisioning section, you will want to complete the global tab of the persona feature matrix in the Excel spreadsheet that's part of this folder as well. And we will show you that here in just a minute and how to do that. So the process of the persona analysis activity, what it is that you will be doing and what are the steps involved, you will want to make sure that you have identified the team roles and stakeholders who should participate in that workshop, and make sure that the people that are required are actually there in the room with you as you complete it. You will obviously conduct the workshop, and as part of that, complete the associated feature matrix. Now, you probably won't be able to complete that in one workshop, so that may be something that'll have to carry over, but you would at least want to get a good start on that. And then as an outcome, you will review the results of the activity, and because this is something that is being iterated upon, you may need to rerun this as new features become available to support iterative migrations, and we'll help you with that. So now let's go ahead and walk through the persona workshop deck that you will be delivering to your customer. You'll note that as part of the deck, there are slides that are going to be hidden. And you'll see up in the upper right-hand corner that it's denoted as a hidden slide. This just gives you a bit of a reminder of what you are going to present and what the workshop outcomes are supposed to do and kind of the workflow in which you'll go. You can, of course, take off that hidden slide icon and use it as part of your agenda, but it's there, just note, in the deck so that you'll have something in order to be able to reference. Now, the intent of this slide is to show how people and their associated roles, in conjunction with their communication technologies and tools, support the business value chain. In other words, what the organization does. Communication technologies are only used or justified to the extent that they support the mission, processes, and workflows of the organizations. you'll want to convey here that employees and contractors use communication technologies to perform their jobs or roles within this organization, often within a set of metrics or measured outcomes. Value chain processes can be optimized by specific application of new technologies, such as universal communications, cloud, mobility, and even in some cases can replace existing technologies. At this point in time, you'll want to talk to your customer about what a usage profile is. So we give you the opportunity to define the term usage profile. And a usage profile allows you to group users based on similar business processes to ensure that they have the communication tools and technologies available in order to do their job. This is not something Microsoft just made up. It is the result of an independent researcher who is an expert in this field with more than 10 years of experience and research. And the name of that company is Unicom Consulting. Ultimately, the goal from this workshop that you'll want to convey is that you can benefit the customer to help them strategize in their communication roadmap to ensure that they identify the groups of users who get the most benefit with the least amount of risk. And note, there is a return on investment from universal communications in each profile. We know that all users cannot be migrated to Office 365 due to some of the advanced PBX feature sets that are required by some of your users. The idea here is that you will take a look at what countries are currently deployed as far as PSTN dial-in conferencing. This may or may not be something that will impact your customer, but certainly should be considered to make sure that there is no gap in the available features. And are you okay with the features that are available in dial-in conferencing or Cloud PBX? There may be some features that one or two users use, but it doesn't really make sense to hold back the organization based upon just a couple of those features. So that is what you will help work with your customer to make sure that these are considered. And then you can deploy online and make sure it aligns with the best profile fit, and then expand and continually iterate. So as we just mentioned in the previous slide, what you'll need to convey, again, is that all users are not a good candidate to be migrated online based upon their current feature set in the online settings. So hence this workshop. The advantage of all of this is that deploying Cloud PBX, PSTN calling, PSTN conferencing, it doesn't need to be a flash cut, but instead an iterative and phased approach, determining who benefits most with the available features. So example, those users that are considered low-hanging fruits to the much more complex and most complex. So as we start looking at this, you'll want to convey that users that just require basic instant messaging and presence in audio video conferencing, those users are very simple to migrate from your on-premise to online version because those feature sets are available in online. It gets a little bit more difficult when you consider migrating users who need PSTN conferencing and basic voice features. But then you'll group into that next iteration, that group of users. Then it begins to get more complex. You have users that require integrated voice response services, organizational auto attendant, call queuing, hunt groups. So you'll want to make sure that you're considering what feature sets those users have and if they're a good candidate. And part of the exercise that you'll be doing with the customer is mapping those features with the right personas. And then we get into the very complex call center, call recording solutions. Those users you want to leave for the very last because they are very difficult and have advanced requirements that need to be considered. So this is the result of the research and experience done by Unicom Consulting. They have grouped usage profiles into 8 categories that cover 90% of all users in every industry. And based upon what that industry supports, what it is they do for that organization, and where they are located as far as their desk or remote office will help us to define their communication patterns. There is an additional bucket on the bottom that's not part of the 8, and it's called Universal Communication Support for all users that ties specifically into communications used by the organization as a whole, but not tied to a specific user. This is such things as video conference rooms or common area devices, and we really won't cover that in this particular workshop, but it is important to note that that is another consideration that you have to think of with an overall migration. At this point, we've carved some of those 8 top personas into their usage profile, and you'll want to briefly touch on a couple of personas based upon whom your target audience is and how it relates to their communication strategy. So for example, a company such as an advertising agency, most of their users may fall into the very first persona, collaboration on-premise mobile. And note that each one of these is just capturing some of the high-level functions, and it's broken down into 3 categories. We do have a more detailed section when we start mapping between the Excel spreadsheet and the deck to be more granular. But at this point in time, you know, it's as part of those 3 buckets, you're looking at who the user is, what it is that they do, what do they currently require from a voice and telephony perspective? And then what is the optimal state for these users? This might be a great opportunity to enhance and optimize some of their communications capabilities. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these slides, but I will call out here in Contact Center. So Contact Center, those are not users that you may want to move over initially because of their advanced software, but we do see companies where Contact Center uses IMM presence only because they're communicating with their supervisors and managers to help with some of their resolutions and to get advice. So there may be an opportunity if that group is simply using it and it's separate from their existing call center software. So now I'm going to jump into the next section that you'll want to touch base on. And this, and again, here's another hidden slide to kind of help you guide what we're going to do as far as mapping the usage profiles to those business verticals and their associated roles. So you can obviously remove this slide, but you can actually keep it in here too. Just want to point it out that that is something available to you as you start to change directions, since you've defined what a usage profile is, and now you're actually going to use that information to start mapping in between. Now, this too is a hidden slide. I highly recommend that you don't show this to a project team. It's really just for context and to help you as you start looking at the customer and what it is that they do. Are they manufacturing? Do they do distribution? Are they in healthcare? It just helps you to understand some of the communications profiles. And one of the things that you will notice in this is job titles may vary based on industries, but similarities exist across them in the type of work and communication requirements as specifically noted. We have provided this for you, and it's a template so that based upon the customer that you are targeting, you can actually just peel out the information that you're looking for that specific customer and what they do. So manufacturing, for instance, this gives you the ability to see that research and development and product management, they are typically collaboration and on-site mobile personas. So this helps you now as you start to go talk to and about the different personas inside of their organization specifically. So again, we've talked about how usage profiles have been defined, why identifying usage profiles are important, and how different users leverage their communications tools. Now we will dive into mapping them and documenting them by toggling between the associated PowerPoint and Excel to map the personas and communication needs. Again, you have the delivery instructions that you can keep here. to remind you what it is you're supposed to kind of help focus the customer on. And again, this is just guidance. And then we will start with the first profile, just as an example. We won't go through all of them, but we'll demonstrate how you would go back and forth between these users. So you would make sure that the customer understands that when we talk about a collaboration, on-premise mobile user, they are mobile on-site at a corporate office. We're not referring to on-premise server. We are talking about where they mostly perform their work. But these folks, they're hardly ever at their desk. So they, as far as what they do, is they mostly work on documents and projects. They have interaction with external people, and they also may have a workspace, but they're very rarely at their desk. And they stay within the corporate walls. But because they don't usually stay at their desk, they have a dependency and expect Wi-Fi, 4G, or home networks to be able to work. And they expect to be able to use the corporate Wi-Fi without issues. As far as what they do that's different than other profiles is they're not desk-bound. They prefer wireless open spaces, and they're not managing business process improvements. That's more of a management style. So from a communication perspective, what is it that they need? They require a corporate phone number, and they need to have access to the public switch telephone networks. They do a lot of conference calls, and they do need the capability to record in most instances. Additionally, because they're hardly at their desk, they need to be able to have their phones simul-rung or forwarded to another device, and to be able to transfer calls from different devices, for example, from a PC to a mobile. They expect communication to be a part of the applications that they work on. And above all, they must have enterprise-grade capabilities and security. At this point, you would then go to the Excel worksheet, to the personas matrix. Now, I'm going to go through the different tabs on where you would want to go through. So I'm going to start with instructions, introduction, version, history. You know, those are just introductory slides, so nothing real important there. Where we start to get into the meat of it is the instructions. And I realize this slide is pretty tiny font. I'm not expecting you to read it. I just want you to be aware that this is in the worksheet, so that if you ever don't know what to fill out, or if you're having issues, there's some information there that you will want to reference. Now we start to get into the real meat of the questionnaire. You'll notice that column C, where it says deployed, used at customer, is green. This is the global configuration tab, where you would fill out what that user currently has on premise and what you would have done as part of the prerequisites to this workshop based upon the discovery questionnaire that you filled out in the envisioning section. You'll notice we have it grouped by feature set modality. And then we've also provided in column D some information about this. So let's take XMPP Federation, for example. There would be a drop-down box, yes or no, is this currently enabled on-prem? But one of the comments in consideration is XMPP Federation is not available online and will only work for on-premise users. At this point, you would need to make a decision. Is this something that is still required? Does this make, is this a blocker from us being migrated to online? So that is just some basic information there. Next, the tab over where you start to complete the information based upon that specific user profile. You'll note that some rows are grayed out. Well, why is this? Well, this is because they are not relevant based upon the yes/no questions that you filled out in the global values. And again, any column that is green is something that you can edit. You'll want to focus on one user persona at a time and lay out the values and what their usage is of the various modalities. For example, as you fill out the questionnaire, reference the corresponding personas such as collaboration, on-premise, mobile. And you will also fill out what is their usage of that capability. So for example, peer-to-peer audio calls. The default is high because most users that are collaboration on-premise users, that is true. They have a high usage of peer-to-peer audio calls. But then you can take and assess that for your information as far as what they currently do use. Next, after you filled out all of those different usage personas, you're going to have some reports available to you that are going to help you understand what personas require as part of their feature set. And which ones are most eligible to be migrated. Now, one quick note, if this is blank, reference the instructions at the very top. You'll want to hit that data tab and refresh all for the spreadsheet to pull that information across. So that is left on that sheet just for your reference, and it's also in the instructions tab. But then you can actually start taking this information and putting it into a useful format. Additionally, you can carve up the information in a different way. So which persona requires this? So this feature for dial-in conferencing, it needs to be the collaboration, field, production, admin, execs, and senior managers need to have this feature set. Same thing with hunt groups, group call pickup. And as you can see, now you know which feature is required by most personas. The next tab is the Workload Reports tab. Really, this is just there for using it for subsequent network planning activities, but it just gives you, I would concentrate on the persona workload, but you can use this for the bandwidth calculator and some other activities you may have when doing network planning. Next is, and last, is the geo report. Now, it's great that we identified the personas that are easy to move so we understand impact. Now, what are the top 3 personas that we can move? And does it make sense in terms of the numbers? So now you can start taking and looking at sites that may need to be deployed and putting in some special legal requirements to make sure that these are mitigated. So this gives you the opportunity then to go take a look at and carve it up by site. Now we're going to assume that you've completed that that questionnaire. The next thing that you really need to be mindful in your planning capabilities is making sure that your users have the right device, and make sure that that is part of your overall strategy. Those last 3 feet really, really matter. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people, talking into their PC. They're receiving a great experience, but the experience that they're giving to other people on the call is really degraded because of the kind of tools that they've been given. And as you can see, there is many partners, and if you want to go take a look at all of the fully qualified devices, you can go to the WAC Partner Solutions, skypeforbusiness.com solutions catalog, and go search on those based upon what you're looking for and for your needs. Again, I'm going to pick on the first usage profile because we talked about that earlier. And again, where do they work? They are mobile on site at the corporate office, but they're hardly ever at their desk. So giving them a desk phone may not make a whole lot of sense because they're very rarely there. And is that something that you really need to do? So since they primarily use their smartphone, their tablet, and PC for their daily work, and they need to be able to make inbound, outbound calls, it makes the most sense that you would give them a Bluetooth or a DECT headset with noise cancellation because they're in noisy areas, which compared to their PC and smartphone or their tablet to make and place their voice calls. Additionally, because they may be doing a lot of impromptu conference calls, rather than have everybody gather around a PC and turn on the audio, an inexpensive hockey puck is great for that small room conferencing experience for those users who are predominantly mobile. And I'm going to skip through these, but you know, when you're talking with your customer, it gives you all of that information to help them outline that strategy. So, what are your next steps? Well, the first thing would be to complete the questionnaire. More than likely, you will not have time during your workshop to fully go through each and every one of the personas and get those mapped. You may, but sometimes you need to go back, talk to other users, talk to other business units to really get a good grasp of that. Next, you'll want to make sure that you interpret those numbers. So what does that mean? Who are the people that we can migrate? What's the low-hanging fruit? Who's going to get the most benefit with the least amount of risk? You'll want to interpret those numbers and present that back to your customer with the strategy to move those people online. And based on that, you will make that recommendation. And then as new features become available, such as organizational auto attendant and hunt groups and call queues that are rolling out right now in preview, you'd be able to add that next step of users into that list of users that are identified to be migrated online. So just a summary of the training. In this workshop, what you did for your customers, you provided an overview and a definition of who a usage persona is and why it's important to identify them. And now you also have a common terminology when you talk about a persona. Based upon those usage profiles, you mapped that information to the online features that are currently available in the persona matrix questionnaire, and you now have a document that can be used and iterated upon for your next exercises to continue that iterative approach to migrating users to online. And just a reminder, here are some resources that you can leverage to learn more about the Skype operations framework, how you can provide feedback, and where you can access more of the videos as demonstrated today. That ends and concludes our training. Now we'll open up for questions and answers.
Thanks, Connie. So we'll be starting the Q&A in just a moment. As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, just type it into the text box to the right hand of your screen. Before we start the Q&A though, and if you've not already found it, I'd like to bring your attention to the link on the upper right-hand side of your viewing window that says Survey Link. That's a link to a short survey for this web conference, and we ask that you please take a moment before logging out to access it. We hope that you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed our web conference or have feedback on how we can provide you with a better event, here's your chance to let us know. The survey scores are on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible. So with that, Connie, I'll turn it back to you to answer questions.
Sure, absolutely. One of the questions is, how could we consider to move from medium to high or to low, for example, when filling out the persona matrix? Well, we recommend to follow the guidance from the bandwidth calculator, since this is the information that is intended to be used with the bandwidth calculator. The bandwidth calculator can be found on the Microsoft download page under Assess Health in that particular folder. Another question, as new features become available in Office 365, will the persona matrix be updated? Yes, absolutely. This is a living document that will be updated on a regular basis. I noticed that features such as simulring and call forwarding are not specifically called out in the matrix. Why is that? That is a great question. These features are being compared with the features that are currently available and the delta between your on-premise and Skype for Business online deployment. So call forwarding, simultaneous ring, those are features that are available in both services. If we listed each and every feature, it would take a long, long time to fill out that questionnaire. So what we really wanted to do is bring to bear the items that that there is a difference between on-prem and online. And let's see, is there any other questions? It looks, well, thank you very much for participating in today's session. We really, really hope that you found this valuable and appreciate the time that you spent with us today. So this concludes our broadcast. See you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Connie. So again, as she mentioned, this does conclude today's Partner Infopedia web conference. The recording from today's presentation will be available on Skype operationframework.com WAC Academy. You will also receive an email 72 hours post-conference with details on where to access it. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenter, Connie, and thank you for logging in and joining us today.